Mike, turn your games down.
Hi, welcome to another comic episode of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin. Who is in the Dimension X with me tonight?
One of Stock Gen's rejects, Red Fox.
Welcome back. And as always, we're talking about turtles with you on the show.
I'd rather have it no other way.
I don't do turtles really without you. I think I maybe done one a very, very long time ago when the show started. Maybe you were on the early ones, so I can't remember.
I remember being on all of them, but who knows at this point? I mean, we all make mistakes.
I record too much shit. So for those that follow along with us, what we do, we've been slowly over the course of a couple years now, have been covering the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the IDW run. And I kind of skipped a little bit, but if you want to catch up before we do this one, the other two comic episodes to listen to are the Comic 19, which covers the first part of this arc, and then you would also want to listen to Comic 28, which is the second bigger arc. There's more in volume than that, but I kind of split up. But we are here now to talk about some of the issues leading up to Krang War and that part. So there will be spoilers, but it's a comic, doesn't matter, in my opinion.
And it's about 12 years old now.
Is that older? No, is it? It can't. Well, not this.
I want to say IDW started doing
2013.
I thought it was 11. Well, you're right. Probably, maybe it's 2013.
It's been hard to find. It's hard to find information about it online. Like I was looking for the year when this particular comic came out, but I really can't find much information.
Yeah, it looks
I can find where the run starts.
2011.
Okay, so this would have been 2012, 2013. Because we're talking about issues like, 16 through 20. So, yeah, right around that.
Yeah. They would have been a little bit in there.
Yeah, it's fucking over 10 years old. That's, yeah.
Yep.
You've been talking about rereading this. We started this a while ago. And I've been kind of dragging my feet. I just haven't wanted to cover Turtles. And then we did Turtles Forever not too long ago. That people will hear by this point. And all of a sudden, you kick the Turtles thing back into me. So for this recording, we had to read about 8 issues or so. So I read all 8. And then I decided to read all another 20 issues. I read everything we read before and just reread everything up to that point, and then reread the same stuff over again.
That's because dedication. Let's keep that momentum going.
Yeah, this book is. You weren't. So one thing got me interested. I know I probably said this over a year ago. Is I like Krang, and I was really interested to see where it was going to go with this. And when I saw the title Krang War in the volume, I was excited. But before we get there, we're going to start with the April micro series issue, which is what kind of brings up this arc that we're going to be talking about. This I had absolutely no interest in until I started reading it. I don't care about April normally,
Sure. I mean, not enough to have some focus on her.
No, but this did it. I thought this issue starts off with her having a dream where she's a turtle being chased by ninjas, and it's essentially PTSD. She's suffering kind of. That's all I took.
Yeah. I think it kind of reflects the toll that it is taking on her, dealing with something that no other human really has had the opportunity or just misfortune to deal with prior. So.
Well, and she's dealing with the turtles and everything like that, and she's like, "My life is weird,"
I mean, realistically, yeah, it is extremely weird.
I really like that. I really like seeing her because I actually had thought that she had quit working for StockGen because I had also realized that I took different turtle stuff and put them in my head and jumbled them together. In my head, she had worked for StockGen, and then Baxter tried to kill her with the Mousers, which is not this comic. I think it's the 2003 cartoon.
That's actually Mirage, I thought.
Okay, is that Mirage? Yeah, I took stuff and had it jumbled in my head before I started reading all this again, and I'm like, okay, I was off because it's too much turtles.
Yeah, you're starting to jumble. But
yes.
It happens.
That's one reason I went back and read anything, because this kind of in this issue you see her working at StockGen. You see her realizing that she can't trust her employer, and there's some good little things that they do, like they have her go and she's like, well, I can't, I'm not a ninja, but I can steal somebody's ID card and sneak in where I shouldn't be.
She's trying to make herself useful. I mean, instead of the typical, as far as the past goes, in some of the iterations, she ends up being just the usual damsel in distress. I'll give you information as needed, but I always need help. I mean, Turtles Forever showed you they save her on a daily basis. So now to where she's kind of badass. Not only is she smart, they went back to her roots. Not to mention she's back in the field of science. She has nothing to do with reporting or anything like that. And she's actually using her intelligence to the turtles' advantage. and her humanity to their advantage.
I think that's what's really cool in this, because like, she causes a problem, but she also is trying to help them. Like she's trying to get back the turtle tracker that they have that was in another micro series issue, and that's what she's up to. She's trying to sneak in to get something, and I like how she causes all these problems because Chet is hiding it, which you had mentioned when we first talked. Like, yeah, you're like, Chet's going to be way more important, and then I unfortunately looked it up when I shouldn't have.
Oh man, you blew it. But
I looked it up years ago, like when we first did this. Yeah. I didn't mean to. I think I just typed in something with Chet, and I was like, oh, damn it. But, yeah. So.
Yeah, that's a huge for anybody. I mean, we're going to spoil it anyway for you later on, but that is a huge spoiler early on when it comes to these
yeah, especially when you're just, randomly reading stuff. Oh, I also had, because it made me think of some of the old toys. I had an old Fugitoid toy, but I had no idea who it was or why, but I had it as a kid. From the old
back in those
cartoon.
Days, it was much different in those days. I remember I actually read the Mirage version of Fugitoid also.
It's not good.
I mean, it's not like this. It is here, that's for sure.
No, this is way better. I do not like the old Mirage stuff, personally.
It's rough. It
doesn't do it for me.
It's hard to get through.
But I also like how you see her grab a coffee and she pretty much just chucks a coffee and just ruins all the electrical work, distract them like she's stealing something that she's not supposed to have.
Yeah,
I don't know. I found that really amusing. Like but
last second makeshift plan,
Yeah, I mean, it's cool to see her doing that and being involved in things like this, and I mean, causing trouble. And you also see that by her doing that, one of the containers that had something in there, one of the experiments, it ends up acting up, and then that experiment is able to escape, which plays a part. And I really like that. I also like how you have a funny line where she dresses up all in black. And she's like, just a jogger, pay no attention, nobody special. And then she, slips into a lab coat on and acts like she works, and just changes her hair and everything, puts on glasses.
And she also, for the first time, gets to witness the rock aliens, Granitor or Trag or whatever.
Were those humans?
No. If you later on, the last issue that we're going to cover, they show what they are, but they're not human. They're alien, just not human.
Okay, because I wasn't sure if it was like humans that then were injected with something to give them bony skin.
I believe they go through some type of experiment to get the rock skin. It's been so long I can't fully remember.
Okay.
But I think they go through some process.
I don't think it's in any of these issues.
None of these, no. They don't cover it in these, but later on I think they cover that.
But I like how the Rock Man notices something's up with her, and she just walks away while he's yelling at her.
Yep. Hey, you got to think, right, if this giant rock guy is following, screaming at you, what are you, especially when you're a woman, what are you going to want to do? Get the hell out of there.
Yeah, so she
Man or woman,
And again, act like you belong somewhere. That's the best way to sneak around places. Act like you belong.
Yep.
People are less likely to pay you any attention, which is very true.
One thing I did want to bring up is the start of this issue. I don't recall. It's been a while since I read the ones before this, but she ends up getting the whole, a few pages. Oh yeah, you can tell me, I'm sure. She goes kind of the diary route in a way. They don't really indicate that she's writing a diary, but either way, you hear her thoughts, kind of like in the 90s movie.
It's the theme of the micro series. All the micro series are very much of point of view.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
So that just sticks with it. Each one, if you, all the ones before this, and I'm assuming the villain micro series, which starts after the next one that we're going to talk about, they all kind of do the same thing. Where it just is it's from that person's point of view.
Right, and it should be, being that it focuses directly on that one character.
So it works well for that. And I really got a kick out of when she's running into one of the rooms, she pulls out a pipe, sprays the Rockman in the face, and you can see a Godzilla image shadow behind her, which I did not know who that was at first. And during that time, you also have her. She puts smoke in his face, and then he grabs the coat, and she slips out of the lab coat and runs off. I really like that. And then you see the Rockman get punched in the face. When I first saw that shadow, I really thought that was Tonka. That's what I thought they were going with this.
I mean, when you look at it from that shadow, it does seem reminiscent of that. The spiky shell or whatever. But you know what kind of gets me is the design of him in this one is much different than the issues following.
Yeah, it is. Because I think you see her escape, and then you see one page. I think, if I remember correctly, you see him once. Yeah, you see one page of him where he looks completely different than what he will look like.
Yes. Yep. I don't understand why they did that. The only theory in my head is that he's still mutating or whatever, but I don't. Maybe they just ended up wanting a more snapping turtle design or scarier design. Because I don't like design in this one.
I don't either. I think it's just different artists. I
guess so. I'm glad they went with a much better design later on. They did show him with a moment with that plastic palm tree too. Kind of a callback to the Mirage days or even the 87 cartoon. Just always, no matter what iteration they show of this character, they always show him connected to that palm tree one way or another. Even more so on a minor scale on this one, but they still show it, and that was a nice touch, I think.
I can't remember in the 87 cartoon if there was a palm tree.
I could have swore there was, but I'll never watch it again to really be able to...
No, you don't want to.
No, I don't.
It's not good. So I don't recommend it at all. All right, and that brings us to issue 15, which continues it. And it kind of has, that starts with like a flashback that kind of shows you, it says like 14 months ago, and you see a little snapping turtle and them injecting the serum into the turtle, which is made from Hobbs' blood. Because they only have his blood. So
being that it's diluted, it has a different effect than it might have had if it was pure.
Yes. And I like how it shows, Hobbs is still working with them, and it shows that they drugged him. Then it goes 13 months ago, and it shows the turtle getting bigger, and it shows it eating a rat.
Yeah.
I really like that. I thought that was cool. And then it keeps kind of cutting forward, and you see the turtle beating the shit out of people, because they're trying to do the thing. They're trying to make it, work, but it's not cooperating. And then it shows 2 weeks ago when it actually escaped. And this from April's thing.
Yeah.
Which I thought was
kind of showing his aggression and his instability.
Yes.
I'm guessing that because of the type of blood he's got.
Yeah. And there's a little moment that I didn't think much, but it's actually kind of touching, where you see Michelangelo is going to this pizzeria, which is mentioned throughout earlier issues of this, where he talks about this guy he goes to, this guy will give him free pizzas, and you see a lot of that here, and then you see him get attacked by the turtle. And I like how much that affects him, that person, and how much, I can't remember his name though. I know it's in here, but I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, I kind of forgot.
Yeah, I'm trying to look and see Woody, that's his name.
Oh, yep.
That's why I forgot. So, and then you kind of have, like, where the police are looking for a turtle, and I think it's all a bunch of jokes. You have the turtle stopping a mugger shortly after this, and then, the muggers being like, oh, God, it's a turtle.
Yeah, because they don't know the difference. Even though they just got saved, they think that maybe, this is the same thing that's attacking everyone. They just attacked them. Now it's my turn.
Yeah, which I think makes perfect sense, because that's how it would work in reality, too. I mean, hell, look how many things we've had happen that happens with that.
Right.
Where people blame someone.
They also introduce, maybe they showed it in the previous issues, I don't know, but Splinter getting used to this life that he now lives with his soap operas and his goofy aprons, dad aprons and stuff like that.
I like that.
And you got to think, this is some rather ruthless assassin who used to be an assassin, and now this is kind of what he does and what he enjoys.
I mean, he's still there. The ruthless assassin is still there, I'm pretty sure.
So it is. I mean, because he obviously he's the one to train the turtles, and he can still do his thing when it comes down to it. But hey, his free time is exactly that, his free time. If he wants to spend it that way, it's up to him. But they turn off his soap opera or whatever the Casey ends up doing, and that's when they first hear about Slash and that there's something else out there.
He's wearing that apron that says, I woke, therefore I am.
Yep.
I really liked that. I don't know why. It was just funny to me. And then you're right. Then you have that. You have where the April's van gets damaged, which leads to, and also at the same time, the turtles are trying to find a new hideout because they've been staying at April's and they can't stay there anymore, which I like that too. And this is where you have a good scene where you have this turtle that you still don't know what his name is yet, he ends up ripping off the guy's shirt from one of the muggers, ties it around his head because he sees the other turtles wearing bandanas as they jump over a rope because he's hunting them and he can smell them.
Yeah,
it's damn cool. And they go to a church which has like bunker inside, and there's some funny. I like the way the turtles talk. I really do.
They
just like their humor
pretty well. And Michelangelo's always the standout to me in most of the stuff, and I think they wrote him pretty well. I don't necessarily enjoy that he's overly sensitive, but it makes sense also. Like that, whether you enjoy something or not doesn't mean that it's written wrong. That's just a character trait of them, and they just did a good job with it.
And I think it works well in here. Like, the way that they banter back and forth and that they all have such different attitudes.
Yeah. And I think Johnny really shines up in some of the upcoming issues for sure, but and I think they even touched on it in the past ones that you happen to reread. But that whole thing about him denying mysticism and spirituality and things like that, I thought that was such a character trait that he would have, being that he's so logical and intelligent, and that struggle he ends up having with that throughout the series. That was a lot of good character development for him.
And you see it constantly. Like, you see him really struggle about the past life thing, which I get it. I'd be in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hard thing to grasp because he's in technology, he's into science, and that goes against all of that. Makes perfect sense. And then you have this turtle fighting the other turtles, and he pretty much he beats the shit out of them. So for the most part, takes him down.
Yeah, he's huge. He's a lot stronger. He's more durable. So he's a hunter, like they say. Like that's what he's meant for.
The last panel is him holding up Leo, standing on top of Raphael and Donatello, and he says, "Kill."
Yep.
And that's the end of the issue.
I do like, but right before that, a few pages, is how they made it in kind of like a horror movie style.
Oh, yeah.
He's on the stairs, and they shine the lights on him, and it surprises the hell out of him. And this is the first time they're seeing, that's not the first time they're seeing another mutant, but the first time they're seeing another mutant turtle. So that's got to be a shocker on top of it.
Well, I would say 100%. That, you're not used to that, and you're surprised. It completely throws you off. And issue 16 gets us more into their fight, where it starts off with, the way the other issue ended, but you have Mikey shining a flashlight on this turtle, which I really like. And you're right, it brings more of those horror elements in too with it. Not as, not the same, but it still has that element of horror.
Yeah, but I think it should be a rather frightening encounter with this giant turtle, killer turtle, I should say.
But it's really cool to see the fight. Like and again, each turtle attacks them one by one, gets their ass handed to them, and they're having a hard time. It's really good to see. And it also kind of jumps back and forth a little bit, where you see a little bit more stuff with Baxter Stockman, where he's in Burno Island working on the Technodrome. You get a few little scenes of that where you have the aftermath of Slash escaping from Stockman and how they're dealing with that.
Yeah. One thing I did notice is that Baxter talks to Chet the way that Krang talks to Baxter. They each talk down on each other.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
So in many ways, Baxter gets his taste of his own medicine straight from Krang. Yeah. Nobody knows how to treat their employees in this comic.
Or in real life, huh?
Not wrong.
But no, that's a good point, because he's, it's the whole thing, well, I'm above you, so I can talk down to you, when it's like, I need you. Krang needs Stockman needs Chet.
Yep.
So, but okay, that's cool. That's a cool insight.
Krang
And this
also needs Chet more than he knows also.
But like, you see the turtles fight, when you see him fighting this other turtle, and at one point Leo tries to talk to him because of something that Splinter says. So he's trying to talk to the turtle and convince them, like, hey, we're not your enemy. The same thing happened to us. We're also experiments.
Yeah, he's trying to de-escalate it because he knows that they bring it up that this is possibly going to go one route only. If they don't try saying something or doing something else, somebody's going to die.
It gets close.
And realistically, that or run. And it doesn't seem like they can really run, in the dark and tight quarters for the most part. Like, so they gotta figure something out.
Yeah, because they're in a bomb shelter underneath this church that then connects to the train tracks, which I'm assuming is going to play a big part as this story progresses. So that's what I'm thinking. And then you also have April and Casey going to go help them out because they didn't show up. Raphael's supposed to come because Casey finally got off probation, which they talk about in all the other issues, so he can finally play hockey, and he misses the game because they're in a fight. So, well, more a pretty girl asked him to go with him, so he goes. That's the moral why he misses the game.
Not wrong, yeah.
Not at all. But like, when you have Leo talking to this turtle, they get into or he attacks him because he gets distracted because of April, and he stabs him in between like the shell and one of the weak spots of one of his katana. And that image of him, just that turtle standing there with a sword in him, is just really cool.
And just pure confusion and I'm sure astounding shock and pain.
Well, I mean, I'm sure a katana shoved in your shoulder blade doesn't feel good.
Yeah, besides the fact you trying to process what the hell's going on. I mean, even Leo's like feeling the dread. Like you'd feel the dread in his stomach right now as he just realized what he did. I mean, these are Mirage turtles that want to kill everything. You know, these are teenagers that might have just ended this thing's life.
Yeah, I mean, and then you have the turtle takes off the mask and throws down the katana with the mask, and then drops into the water and disappears. It's very cool, and then you really get to see the aftermath of this too, where you have
that's the most interesting part there, the aftermath of it all,
like
how it affects each individual.
And also, like when they're cleaning up the bunker, they all have bandages all over them because they're all beat up.
Yeah, they got their ass beat.
I really like that little touch. And it's good to see. It's cool to see, like you said, like how they're all taking it. Like you have Michelangelo who lost his friend because he goes to the pizza place and the guy won't come out anymore because of what happened to him. You still give him food, but he won't see him. And you can just see Mikey just crying. Also, how Mikey confuses people wearing a hoodie and jeans. But hey, whatever.
Right. Yeah, and it shows like his pure sadness that he lost a friend because he likes to connect. He likes to bring people together.
Yeah.
And this is out of his control. This is not something that he personally caused, the circumstances of life. And this is a hard lesson that he gets to learn as well, because you got to remember, he's also the youngest of the four brothers, right? So he now has to learn these lessons that he should have learned a very long time ago. And it's just destroying him. Like
there's one line from Splinter here after everything happens, and he says, "In a world as jaded and cynical as this one, Michelangelo's unbridled optimism is to be celebrated, not discouraged. And as for Leonardo, do not mistake his discipline for callous detachment. Whatever has become of that creature you battle, I am certain Leonardo too wishes things had ended differently." Like, it's just really cool. And it keeps going. "You must all understand, though, your brother's blood, like yours, runs cold. He is no more cold-hearted than any of you, but he is ninja."
Right, and I love this. I think it might carry on to the next issue a little bit when Splinter tries to clean some things up. But he's showing that leadership role, that fatherly role, and some of the best writing that they have up to this point. That is good. That's good dialogue. That's just good writing to me.
It really is. And the way the turtles grow as the series progresses is just so good too.
Right, and you have yet to see how far that goes.
No, I can't wait. I mean, ever since we started this, you've been talking about issue 50, and we're going to make that happen. So
yes, please. I can't wait till you see what goes on.
We'll experience it. We'll experience it together. Read together for you, and then first time for me. But yes.
Hey, I'm waiting to experience that again. So.
Because it's like 100 and some issues of the first volume before it changes, which I think you said you didn't like as much.
Yeah, I'd say late 90s, early 100s, where there's a very big tone shift, but you'll see down the line.
Okay, they also have a new name for it too. It completely goes by a different name now, like Reborn or something.
The comics.
Yeah,
they have Armageddon Game. I know that. I mean, I'm currently on 128. That's the issue I'm on, and it's still the same.
Okay, I mean, same thing, but the trades are titled differently.
Oh, I see.
The trades aren't titled like 1, 2, 3, 4. They're like Reborn 1, Reborn 2.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So they kind of consider like a new volume, even though it just kept continuing.
Right.
And the numbers kept going, but it's considered a different volume or something. I was looking up a little bit about it without being very, very careful not to read anything I shouldn't read.
Yeah.
So I've been staying away. I actually have not been spoiled much with this series.
Good. Except Chad. It still sucks, but hey.
Yeah. That was my own fault. Oh, so then this issue ends. You have Leo sitting there sad in the sewer with his sword and the bandana there. Then it has the epilogue where the turtle wakes up from the sewer and Hob is waiting for him.
Not very politely either.
No, he kicks him, doesn't he? Yeah, he kicks him in the face.
Kicks him in the head, yeah.
And he just tells him, and he has blood, which he has Splinter's blood. You see, he took it with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept remembering what you said. Hob always wanted an army, and I reread all the old issues, and all he talks about is, I want an army.
So there you go. There's a hint to where that's going. And
they also never called this turtle by his name. I think now we can say it, but
they did. They do? They did. Yep. If you go back to the news.
Oh, they call him Slash.
Yeah, that's when they actually introduce it. So the last issue.
Okay. That's cool. Okay. I like the fact that, because that's when I think it clicked to me too. Like, oh, fuck, this is Slash.
Yep.
I really like Slash from, mainly Turtles in Time.
It's one of my favorite characters ever. I don't like that they haven't given him the justice he deserves as far as how cool of a character he is, because I think I've said this in past episodes. They went the right route of making him a hunter. I thought that was amazing. I just don't think they have ever made him a very logical threat, like almost like think of the Predator movies, right? That's how I envision Slash and like would like to see him portrayed.
That makes sense.
So, or like a Deathstroke or something. Somebody that's like just a skilled badass that can take these turtles down, almost like Shredder did in the '90s movie. Just I would love to see a movie based around him, but I don't think enough people really truly know who he is to pull that off effectively enough. Maybe.
Okay, so you're telling me he doesn't really get more than as the series progresses?
I'm not going to spoil anything for you.
Okay.
Things change for him.
Okay.
Not in the direction that we spoke of, but ways you wouldn't even imagine happening. So, and it's not bad. So you'll see.
Okay. I am definitely on board.
Especially, I want to say even after or issue 50 that he plays a very big role in some things going on. But you'll see.
Okay. And I can't wait. To be completely honest. And then the next issue in this arc that it brings us to is the Fugitoid, which is now in the micro series.
And this is where the tone begins to shift. I'm sure depending on the reader in a good or bad way. For me, we'll get into it. I'll tell you my opinion in a bit when it comes to that.
Okay. It gets more political. And
sure it does, yeah.
I do want to say I've never been a big fan of the Dimension X stuff. I mean, also, I don't remember a lot of it because the 87 cartoon, well, it's goofy as fuck. And the Turtles comics that I read as a kid were the Archie Turtles ones that I had bought a few trades at the dollar store. And one of them, they went to Dimension X.
You and I both grew up on that for sure, yeah.
I found them at one point. I forget where I think it was I know where I was, at my parents' house, and I found those old trades. And I was like, oh, really? And they're just so goofy, but I loved them.
I still have some of that too, the Mutanimals, all that Archie stuff.
With how I actually have in one of my long boxes, I actually have the first appearance of Bebop and Rocksteady in comic form.
Nice.
So, somewhere I do have that, and there's a lot of like I didn't collect enough of the Archie stuff because it was just the covers were so ugly. But I still liked it when I liked it as a kid. But you get introduced to Fugitoid. The first thing you see is Dr. Honeycutt, which I know from cartoon and the Mirage comics, and you see him working with this robot. You get to you see more of the Technodrome in the background where they're working in some lab for Krang, and it has some good elements of how Krang is, what he's doing, and how these people are just working for him, even though he's pretty much enslaved their planet. But it makes sense. I mean, they have no choice but to accept him for who he is, because if you don't accept him, he's going to murder you. So,
yeah, he's a ruthless interdimensional dictator.
Mm-hmm. But I like how he's following Krang's order until he walks in and sees a thing on the screen. I'm assuming about the Technodrome where it says casualty projection 3.3 billion.
Yep.
And it also kind of shows it's his son. It's his son where he says, "Oh, you're going to help Krang conquer them all," when they're pointing all the different stars, and that's, you can really tell that's what makes him finally flip. Well, that and his wife telling him, "You work for the devil."
She's right. I mean, she kind of had to speak some sense into him, and that moment right there is the turning point of the entire this character and the whole war's trajectory as time goes on. I mean, as you see, what kind of role Fugitoid actually plays. Yeah,
and it's a very cool thing where, and it also reminded me a lot of real life, like North Korea and things like that, or like the Germans and Russia, and just it reminded me of all that, because the whole thing is that his wife convinces him you need to leave, and you see him deleting his data, packing up the robot, and then him escaping with his wife and child, and then the rebels taking him away to experiment in a bunker. And it just really gave me that sense of World War II.
Yeah, that's probably some of the direct inspiration for this character.
Well, I want to say at some point they say Eagle's Nest in this.
Mm-hmm. If they do, I don't remember. Yeah,
I want to say they did, or something else somewhere. Maybe there's something else I'm thinking of, but I swear they said Eagle's Nest. Eagle's Nest is a direct reference to what they called one of Hitler's fortresses, Eagle's Nest.
Okay.
Not something most people would know, but I know a lot about World War II. A little too much. He had the Wolf's Den and Eagle's Nest. And I think both are still standing, actually. Unoccupied, but they're both still standing. They're in Poland too. But that just reminded me of when you see the bunker in the mountain and they're doing the experiments, and you also are, you see them, they're trying to open a interdimensional portal to Earth, and they're failing. It works 60% of the time, they say. And I think and this is where Krang shows up, and he starts bombing the hell out of the bunker, and then his Dr. Honeycutt's family is locked in the bunker because the way the bunker is designed, that if you attack it, it locks in the residential area, which doesn't make a lot of sense in my opinion, but hey.
I guess because Krang has to know that he could possibly kill the doctor at this point. You know,
I don't think he cares.
Well, maybe that's it. He's thinking. I think his view is if he can't have him, nobody will. I mean, he knows that since he defected, he'd rather have him dead than help out the freedom fighters, the rebels.
Yeah, because Krang is a shithead. So.
Absolute worst dictator. You think Shredder's an asshole? This guy, Krang is worse.
Krang is worse, which I find very interesting the way they do Krang in this.
And wait till you see how that pans out later with those.
I can't wait. This shows Dr. Honeycutt. I don't remember what happens in the comics, in Mirage Comics or the 2003 cartoon, but he puts on a device that connects him to the robot, and then he goes into the fire to release the residential people. But the guy's like, if you do that, your body's going to be burned. You're going to be stuck in that robot forever. And he's like, well, I got to save my family. That's his touch.
It's almost I want to say almost the ultimate sacrifice. I mean, all he's doing is sacrificing his human vessel for a robotic one and a possible immortal eternal one. But that's a lot to give up still.
I think I'd rather have the robot.
I mean, maybe. Yeah. Can't taste it anymore.
No back pain. No gaining weight. You don't have to eat anymore. You don't have to sleep. You just recharge. I'll take the robot body. If something breaks, you just replace it. I'm good. I'll take that. Jack me in. But as he releases the people and they're all running, you have Krang's army, or Granitor, one of the leaders, the Rockmen. She just bombs all the civilians and just kills them all. Like, it's pretty brutal.
He gets to win. He witnesses his family and his people die right in front of his eyes. And in a way, it's not his fault necessarily, but he let him out. And this is what he has to now see.
I mean,
and you see the rock soldier here with his Apple Watch.
Oh yeah, you're right. That is like an Apple Watch. It's cool. I like this. And then you have the Rockmen being dumb. They're like, I don't know how they figured out, but they figured out the robot is Honeycutt. And the guy's like,
yeah, they didn't really explain that.
No, they don't.
The guy just, no, that's Honey. Like, well, where's your hint? You know, like, he doesn't even say anything. He just looks at him.
I love when they go to Earth and people are like, oh, are you promoting a movie? Look at those costumes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, what else are they going to think? They don't even know aliens exist.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really cool moment, and how he just blends in with society because, because of the robot can change shape and change form. He just changed it into a human.
Mm-hmm.
It just walks away. And then you have a couple brief scenes back and forth where I got a little confused what was going on, where it shows Chet, working with Stockman. It shows Chet being, getting hired by Stockman. And it also has a good scene where, like, you find out why the ninjas attack, April and everything at the office, because Chet went to Shredder and to pretty much get Shredder to help him to screw over Krang.
Yep.
And I was a little shocked when I saw that. I was like, that is cool. That's bad.
They didn't really explain how he came to find out about Shredder and all that, did they?
No, they don't at all. He's just there. I think he knew Krang had an enemy. I think Shredder was an enemy already.
I don't even know. Well, hold on. Maybe I shouldn't say anything. I think that gets covered more in the
as it progresses.
Of the Foot Clan. Yeah. So Shredder is aware of the Utroms. I just don't think that they deal with each other much currently. I mean, when you recapture everything very recently?
No, they had not had any dealing with each other than when he breaks into the lab. It just says here in the Fugitoid thing, it said I reached out looking for help, looking for people who weren't innocent. I found a group that was willing to help me, willing to support my new branch of the resistance here on Earth.
Okay, all right. So Shredder is aware of Utroms. I'm not spoiling anything for you. Just right now, I don't think they're involved until Chet gets here, and then they kind of reconnect. And you'll see all that's going to circle back and make sense once I think you read History of the Foot Clan.
Okay, which is what we're doing next, actually.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm 100% on board. So, and then it brings us to issue 17, which is the first of the 4 issues for the Krang War. And this introduces you to Planet Neutrino. It shows a war happening. It shows the rock people with huge amounts of army. It shows the neutrino resistance, the king, the queen, the princess, and it kind of goes into like what's happening on their planet and how they're
It
then
introduces
commanded.
a lot to you in
Yeah,
the first few pages for sure.
I don't like these people. I never have.
Neutrinos,
Yeah, I've never cared for them.
they just look like Hyruleans to me.
I mean, they look like punk
But-
Hyruleans.
Sure, yeah.
And they have a very like 80s punk look to them. Like futuristic punk.
I mean, they tried to keep that vein from the 87 cartoon.
Yeah.
Primarily. So I the thing with this, and I wanted to cover this eventually, that now's the time that they kept some of those original elements just as like, I'm sure, a callback or a throwback to what their origins are. But they also made the people, at least during this conflict, very interesting. They made you kind of care for these people and their conflict because you got to build up to them. And now you get to see like what they're going through and what they have to overcome. Some of this even reminds me of Star Wars, but that's another story.
No, it does. It definitely does. Like you have them, they're the Resistance, and even though it's their home world, I mean, it's their planet, but they're considered the Resistance, which I thought was
against the evil empire. Blah, blah,
yeah,
blah.
I really like that. I don't know. I found it really interesting.
But I feel like, and neutrinos, and I'll say this right now, neutrinos were treated well during this Krang War. After this, you don't see them much.
Okay.
Almost at all, possibly. Like I don't remember anything else with neutrinos after this.
I'm okay with that.
Other than Chet. I mean, and that's fine too. Like if all we get is Chet, sign me up. I don't think neutrinos have much to offer other than Chet himself. I think it'd be a waste if they try to shoehorn them in,
That's cool. I like that. Okay. I'm glad that they're not around as much then, because they're not not my favorites. So
yeah,
I'm completely okay with them not being around a lot.
They serve their purpose through this storyline. That's all they were needed for, and they did away with them, and I think it was the right choice.
Okay. All right, and then you also, with this stuff, you also kind of like start seeing, you see some more of the aftermath of what what the Turtles are dealing with after what happened with Slash. Casey had already moved in at this point, one of the other issues, so he's living here now.
Mm-hmm.
So you do have
he
that.
adapted pretty well. I mean, I guess this is overall a better life in this bunker with a bunch of mutated animals. It's a better life than what he was getting shown.
Just kind of funny. I mean, it's sad what goes on in his character, but yeah, it's funny in the other aspect. Like, it's a more normal to be with a bunch of mutant turtles and a rat. And then I think this is when they get the idea that they're trying to get more information about what's going on at Stockman's. And Chet is the only person that's really been nice to April and talked to April. So then they get the idea that they're going to talk with Chet. And she's going to get him to say what's happening.
For somebody that's not a journalist, she definitely wants to get to the bottom of things and kind of shows with what she does here with Chet how good she could possibly be if she was a reporter.
Yeah. And it does jump back and forth like normal, kind of showing like Stockman seeing, Krang show Stockman, takes him away from Bernal Island, takes him to show him what he's doing at this planet. And it's earlier, a couple issues before this, when Stockman finds out that Krang is not human. It's in that Sins of the Father, which we kind of glanced over last time because I didn't read it. I read it before this, but that kind of shows in there. Also, a thing that's mentioned is you have a Shredder wanting them to find out more of what's going on at StockGen also. So you have that where he's sending Karai to get more information. And then
he wants the ooze.
Oh, yeah, that's what he wants. Yeah, he wants the ooze because he wants to make more mutants.
Yeah. So he's got an agenda, and that agenda is born because Chet came over there and opened his mouth. And you also see the tension here between Karai and her grandfather when he wants to replace her as second command.
Mm-hmm.
And
I like that too.
How much power does Shredder think he has that he can almost wholeheartedly change Leonardo without much of an issue? And that's what he's thinking by telling her to even bring him in to begin with.
Yeah, I found that weird. Like, to think like he'd be able to take, but I guess he just thinks he can manipulate him enough.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I didn't really get that part. But I do like where you have April trying to get information from Chet. I really do like that. And you have her sitting in the park, and he's like, "Is this safe?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's safe."
Yeah, well, she knows. She knows she's being.
Well, yeah, she has.
He doesn't.
She has the turtle. She has Casey Jones is there. Everyone's there to protect her, which I really like. I think that's a good scene. That one is really good. It's just the way, like, and because they're just talking. She's trying to get information. He doesn't want to talk, and he's like, "I don't want to put you in danger," which again leads to more, Chet being actually a good person. he's not really a bad person.
Right, and
He's-
even then, April and the Turtles can't really tell. I mean, they think he's just some freak that works at stock gen. I mean, with good reason. But yeah, I mean, they shortly see who he really is and what he's about.
Very soon, because everything's going to hit the fan, shortly after this part.
Momentarily, yeah.
Which I wasn't really expecting, and I was impressed. Like you have this is when the neutrino resistance shows up and ends up, they're here for Honeycut, and then the Turtles just rush in when they see them, which I thought was cool too. It makes perfect sense. They're like, okay, time to go. Let's play.
Yeah, it's protect now, ask questions later. We don't know if these people are hostile. I mean, they already don't trust Chet as is, so and you see Casey's reaction. He's being overprotective for obvious reasons.
Yeah, because he cares about her, which you really do get to see. Even just in what I read so far, you really do see that, which I think is cool. I like the fact that that's happening. As this early on, like you kind of see their relationship.
Yeah, you see it evolve over time, and the struggles that come with it, and with their lifestyle and the life they chose to live.
But you have the Turtles try fighting the Resistance. These random men with guns that just show up, and all of a sudden they teleport. They're like, "Oh, we got them! Teleport us back!" And then the Turtles get teleported too, and they just end up in the frickin' center of war with Krang's army all over.
Yeah.
And I got to talk about the next cover. Issue 18 has a futuristic city. The Turtles standing in the middle of a fire with the Fugitoid, and all the TV screens are just Krang's ugly face. It's really cool. I mean,
it's like a deformed Kirby on the screen.
This isn't my favorite stuff with Krang. Like I said, I'm not a big fan, but I like how they did it by taking the Turtles. And I like the fact that because when they were first going to teleport them, I thought they were going to go the Mirage way and they were going to take them to the Triceratops Republic type stuff, like the 2003 Turtles does, Mirage does, but they go a completely different way with it. And I wasn't expecting that at first. And I did really like that.
Yeah, I'm glad they did. I mean, Triceratons have another very large role later.
Okay, I figured they show up again later.
Yeah, you'll see how that goes.
Okay, I look forward to but I'm glad they didn't go that arc because, if you look at like Mirage 2003, that's the next arc they go after, right away. Second season of 2003 cartoon is the Republic and the Turtles, or the Republic and the Triceratops. And I thought that's where they were going, so I'm glad that they pushed that off to the side and went other ways first. I also don't care for the Triceratops. I don't like the Republic. Maybe my mind will change in this, but I don't care for them.
It's possible. Yeah, you might like how things pan out. I will say in the issues where I'm at, it's still ongoing. Okay. And it's hit or miss for me.
Yeah, it's a different. That's when I like the Street Turtles more than Space Turtles.
Sure, and that's the way I felt with Mirage. I was like, anytime I watched or read any of the Mirage comics, I was like, anytime they went to space and time traveled or dimension traveled wasn't necessarily my thing. Like I always liked the gritty rooftop battles, like Shredder and stuff like that. That was always the best writing.
Same for me too. And when I just prefer the Turtles like that. I really do. And this kind of threw me for a loop, but I liked it more than I thought. Like when they do get it, like the fact that they end up getting introduced right in the middle of the warfare with Krang, and they're trying to get tell us what the fuck is happening. We just got teleported. We don't know where we are. We don't know what's going on. And pretty quickly they realize that these people are trying to kill them too. And one thing that kind of threw me for a loop is you have a bunch of men rush through at them, and they're humans. They're not rock men. And I was that really confused me.
Well, that's Burno Island guys. They have humans on Burno Island. They transported them here to do what they need. Those are humans from Earth.
Oh, okay, so there were humans that they took then.
Yeah, which is, you got to think, like, if these guys go home after this, like, how do you live with that? And how do you not spread the word on that? I mean, later on when they start visiting websites that's covering Burno and learn Krang's name, I guess maybe it kind of makes sense. But you got to think, like, how many lives this changes for these guys to not only know of aliens, but interdimensional travel,
Yeah, I found that's got to definitely be interesting. I found that. Okay, I was just curious about that part. So it had me. Okay, and then you see them, and this is kind of when they start realizing more about what's going on with Krang. You have a good scene here. It cuts back to Splinter, April, and Casey, where Splinter kind of loses it for a second because he blames himself for what happened. You see him just break a broom, and you have a panel of him just with a really angry face.
How much do you know of Splinter's past and who he was before? What do you know about him?
We know that he was the samurai, all that. His kids were killed. We know all that.
Okay. All right. So I don't know if they went into detail yet, just how he was when he was younger. when he was a young man?
That he was angry,
Yeah, okay,
and that
there
the
you
girl
go.
was what
Yeah,
the girl helped him.
Yes, he had a lot of anger issues. So that kind of shows in this moment, and that even then, even at his older age in his second life, he rare moments might struggle with that. Kind of like his son struggled with their issue.
Okay, that's a good way to put it. Okay, I just read everything, but I didn't really think about that. But that's cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you try to really fully encompass these characters, that's stuff that might add up.
I definitely got to say I do like that. I like that, how much they kind of go into what's going on with him. But all right, and another thing, then you have April and Casey, because April's blaming herself because the turtles just went missing with all that, and they don't know what the fuck happened, which is very, makes sense. And it has some good moments here, like you have them, fighting the Rock Army. You have the princess and the king and queen get captured, and then as soon as Mikey hears princess, all of a sudden he gets involved.
He becomes Link to save his Princess Zelda.
That's what I thought too, and I really like that.
He's missing his little hat and a green tunic.
I love how he just runs off to go save her without even thinking.
I thought it was great. I mean, again, as dumpy and dopey as Michelangelo is, he would do something like that.
But it gives him a lot more character in this, and I really like that. I like that they did that.
Yeah.
And you have
carefree and goofy they make him.
Yeah. A lot of both in this, and then you have him run after them and jump up, and one he throws a shuriken at the rock guy and it just bounces off his head because they're rocks. So I got a kick out of that little scene, and then this all leads up to him jumping on the ship, beating the shit out of a couple with nunchucks. He steals, he rescues the princess, but he doesn't even look to see there's other people on the ship. He just grabs her and leaves.
And look at the knight in shining armor with the sun gleaming down.
That is a cool image.
Ridiculous.
And then it cuts back to, again, April being awesome, where she goes to the lab and she's like, starts talking to one of the people. She's like, oh, yeah, where's Chet? Oh, he's, working on the thing with the turtles and this and that. And they're like, how do you know? And she's like, well, I'm undercover just with you. Or, kind of lies to them.
Yep, and Lindsay here, if I'm right, pay attention to that name. It's not a throwaway character.
Oh.
There's a bunch of main and side stories that she's involved in, if I'm correct.
Okay.
It's been a while, but I'm pretty sure Lindsay is the person I'm thinking of.
God, this damn book is so damn good.
Well, probably a good thing I get to point out some characters for you so you can pay attention to them as they go and see how they evolve and where they end up.
And not Google stuff ahead of time?
Not Google stuff, yeah. Exactly.
I won't be doing that again. But I do like how there's a very small panel of Karai is there, and Karai hears about Burno Island.
Mm-hmm.
And I that plays, a part coming up in one of the other issues in this. And back on Neutrino, this is where finally Chet shows him that he is the Fugitoid. And I like how you see everybody freak out except for Mikey. And then Mikey and Donatello are like, oh my God, that's cool.
Yep. Well, because they're supposed to be the two nerdy ones, as Raph says.
I'd be the same way. I'd be like, oh my God, that's cool.
I mean, that'd be cool as hell. As much as I feel like I relate to Raph, that's a really cool moment. And
then you get a good little backstory about Krang and Krang's father, which one thing that really amused me, Krang's father, the mech he's in, has a little tuning fork on top of his head, like in the 87 cartoon.
And then the glasses, too, if you didn't notice.
Oh, yep. I saw those glasses. I was like, fuck yeah. And you find out that...
Nice little callback, for sure.
Yeah. It was cool to see. And it kind of sums up a little bit about the Fugitoid without you having read the issue, because the micro series are more optional. I mean, because they know some people are just going to read the main stuff and not read the other stuff.
Right.
So that was cool. And you find out the Utrons are pretty much all dead, and the ones that are alive are in stasis in Burno Island in the ooze. Because he tried to conquer he pretty much tried to conquer the galaxy, essentially.
He bit off too much, more than he can chew, and destroyed his homeworld because of it. I mean, and Krang has to clean up his mess.
So it's cool to see. And then the end of this shows Krang go on TV. And this is when they first see Krang, and they see the squishy little blob thing that he is, and he has the queen and the king, and he's going to kill them. So
here's the moral dilemma, right? With Krang, is he justified in his means to sustain his people, or is it, that's the moral dilemma I think some people would have to think about. Now, the only reason, in my opinion, it's not justifiable is because these people, or his people, could they could coexist with other races. Krang is choosing not to give them that. He wants to do much, much more and just eradicate life and races in order for his people to grow, and only his people.
I mean, I get it. Like, you have to, in the same way you're trying to save your people, but also your people are all murderers. So,
Well, no, his people are not necessarily.
oh, just
He and
okay.
his father. So, and that is stuff you will see much more, and they'll dig into that a lot, and you'll see different personalities as time goes on, and how they affect the overall story arc. So you'll see.
Okay. I mean, it's also, I should say it's more of, does it justify to put all these other people in danger and kill billions just to save your own people? And I would say no.
That's the moral dilemma. Now, if it's your race and that's what's left of your race, I mean, who knows, man?
You have to find a peaceful way. I try to think like Spock in Wrath of Khan. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying I disagree, but I
know.
You're going to get those of that other side. It's like, hell yeah, it's my species, it's my race, it's what I'm going to do to preserve it, no matter what.
Or the people that believe Thanos was right.
There you go. So,
I mean, there's people out there that are like, yeah, Thanos was right, and they're not kidding. I'm like, you're missing the point. You're missing.
Yeah, they don't get it.
I always love those you're missing the point starter packs that have like certain characters from different, films and stuff. Like, if you idolize these people, like I think the guy from Fight Club is one, Tyler Durden. There's some other ones that are like, you're missing the point.
Yeah.
You don't get this. Same. If you connect with Krang, you're missing the point.
Agreed.
And then I do like Krang's mech, and you see him threatening the king and queen, and then this leads to the neutrinos deciding that they need to go rescue the king and queen. There's not many of them left. So Honeycutt and Donatello go to one spot to work on, a weapon that's going to help them defeat them, while Leonardo, Mikey, Raphael go with some of the neutrino men to rescue the king and queen. And I like how they're like, we're ninjas, we can be sneaky. They don't say it like that, but that's what they
that only goes, well, that goes only so far as well. We'll see.
It don't last too long.
No.
But you do get to see Karai being, stealthy, where you see her parachute like Metal Gear Solid 3.
The only person doing anything ninja in this arc is Karai.
Okay, I really got Snake Eater vibes when I just see her jump out of the ship and do a halo jump.
Oh, of course.
So I wonder if she had to kill animals to eat too,
And maybe
she was in love with
a really long ladder as well,
God, I still love that part. I'm still in a dream, Snake Eater. So that's all I can think of. But I do like that it shows her doing that. It shows April and Casey researching about General Krang.
So that's what I was talking about. It's very interesting to me. Like, they're just looking this stuff up on the internet. Who's tracking this stuff? Is it the people that are there and releasing this information? Or is it outsiders? I mean, how is this being put on the internet?
My guess would be outsiders. And
they say he's been there for decades.
Which is cool. I like that. I also like the whole idea that, he came in and killed everybody. Killed the native population, and then Splinter I think someone says, well, they don't have any resources, so nobody cared. They don't have oil. They don't have anything to make it matter to the rest of the world, so who gives it, and that's a very, very true thing. Oh, Splinter says, mankind is rarely swayed into action by compassion alone. Too often it requires personal gain as a driving force.
Not wrong.
No, look at Iraq with America. We invaded Iraq to save the people. Yeah, had nothing to do with the oil. No, not at all. No oil. I mean, it's just real stuff. I mean, that's why people do some of the dumb shit that's happening in this world, and people start wars over resources, not people. So that's cool how they bring in more real life stuff, and you really kind of see how evil Krang is in this too, which I like. They did a good job with him. They took a really goofy character from the '87 cartoon and make him a badass in this.
Yeah, ruthless dictator.
And I like that. And I also prefer my Krang not to be in a Shredder suit, too, by the way.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that part.
No, I am not either. And you have Karai on the island, again, being more, reminding me of Metal Gear Solid, where she's sneaking up on people. And
here she's being Gray Fox.
Do you think she
killing people in hallways?
Filled the whole hallway with blood?
She legitimately kills a guy. And
the other guy's dead, too.
Eventually, yes.
There's no chance that he walked away alive in that.
No. Oh, you mean the guy she cut in half there?
No, there's a guy she cut in half, and there's another guy that she puts the blade up against his neck and makes him walk. He's dead too.
Oh, eventually, yes.
Oh yeah, she's not taking prisoners. I really got a kick out of that though. I just thought they make your character's pretty badass in this. I gotta say, she's a character I had no interest in because she's not in the '87 cartoon. We were kids. She wasn't in the turtle stuff like the movies, so it took me a little while to really kind of have her grow on me. But in this comic, she's really definitely growing on me.
Her first real exposure, it might even have been her first. I think she was a Mirage, but later.
She's later, yeah.
Yeah,
She is a Mirage.
But her first real exposure to the world, for the most part, other than those Mirage ones, was I think the '03 cartoon.
Yep, that's where she plays a big part in the first season. She's around for a majority of it, and then she becomes Shredder at one point in the '03 cartoon. I watched about 8 hours of content about that cartoon on YouTube, where the guy recaps each season.
I haven't even done that. I need to get on that.
Really damn good. I feel like I watched the entire series, and I have, so it's good. It will educate you without taking the same amount of time it will take you to track down that entire show and watch it.
I have the entire show on Paramount, but I don't know if I can watch that entirely.
No, probably not. And then you have Fugitoid runs into his old assistant from the Fugitoid micro series, where when the fire happened, the guy told him if you take the body, you're going to become a robot, and it shows the weapon that they're building, and then it shows Fugitoid and Donnie and them all working together to get it working because they need that to save it.
Yep. So, and they explain what it does. It's the end missile, the electronics nullifying device, which at first they kind of have a vague explanation. They say it like disables electronic, and you would think, well, Fugitoid,
EMP,
right? But the way they programmed it, it's only Krang's weapons,
which threw me for a loop. But I thought was very cool.
It's not his.
Yeah, because he's on a different frequency. I like that too.
So he's right? So his purpose with Krang was to build the Technodrome. As with the Resistance, he with the other ultimate weapon to disable Krang. So that shows why Krang was so fearful of them having access to Fugitoid.
Yeah, because how intelligent he is. And then you also cut back to Karai on the island after she kills that guard. She stabs him from the chest, by the way, after he opens the door. And she pretty much kills one of the Utron, too, because she finds the tube, cuts one of the tubes open, and just takes all the goo.
Yeah, she took the ooze. That was her way of getting it.
Yeah, she's like, I'll just kill him. Well, who cares? And then you have
killing humans. You think she's going to care about a neutron?
No,
especially something she's unfamiliar with.
And then you have the Resistance blowing up Krang soldiers and starting war with them, and them shooting back. And you get to start seeing, like, you see a couple cool images of them and their tanks and cars and everything fighting each other. And you have the princess gear up too, which again, you are right, it does remind me of Princess Zelda. She's wearing all pink and everything, and yeah.
Yep.
100%. And then the last couple pages of this, you have Raphael standing with one of the Resistance with the whole war going on, and the other one you have Michelangelo and Leonardo confronting Krang in his mech body.
Yeah, it feels like it's a big rush, like a bunch of scenes, right? Show ends, and then the finale is like the next show, you know?
Yeah. And then this brings us to the last issue in this arc, issue 20, and I got to talk about this cover because one is the cover art for this episode you're listening to right now, by the way, because it's fucking awesome. It's Krang holding 4 bandanas in his hand. It's so fucking cool. That's a piece of art I wouldn't mind having framed.
It's quality art and then symbolic.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't happen in this comic, but it's such a cool picture. I really liked it. I think that's also what gravitated toward me too, because I think that is the trade
cover. If you're
your
first time reading this, if it's your first time reading, it's like, damn, you got to think, like, damn, did Krang actually win in this one? Like, you know.
I was a little like, okay, you have my attention, comic. I really like this image. It's just a really cool cover. It makes me wish I would have bought these comics. I haven't. I've actually looked up trades because I was going to try to see if I could find the trades, but that didn't work out so well. Not cheap. I don't know if they're in print right now. So that was part of it. Because I was like, okay, I'll just fucking buy these trades because these are great. But
I thought they were on Amazon. They're on Amazon.
I couldn't find them very easily because I wouldn't mind owning the trades of this. That's how much I'm enjoying it. Because I don't always buy my comics. So, and then issue 20, it starts off with them rushing. You have Raphael and the Neutrino fighting the army and getting, and they're kind of getting their ass handed to them. And then you have Krang just unleashing like an Iron Man beam and fighting the other turtles. And you see how powerful his mech is as they're trying to beat him. And Leonardo even takes off one of his robotic arm, and then gets punched in the face. But it's very cool.
And they comment on how hard he hits too, which is harder than Slash. Which could, if they had trouble with Slash, imagine how much trouble they're having with Krang.
Oh yeah, no, he almost beats them. I mean, he points the gun right at him. Like he would have probably taken them down if it's not for the fact that, the weapon that Donatello and them make stops him. I mean, they do escape him a couple times, but Michelangelo gets stupid because the princess almost gets killed and he puts himself in danger. is what happens in the end of this. And you also have, which I thought was pretty damn cool, when Raphael in that part, you have like a giant mech with Krang, like a hologram Krang operating it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that supposed to be a different Utram, or is that supposed to be Krang? I'm assuming because he's the only Utram around, right?
Well, no, I don't know who that's supposed to be because they don't really explain it, but it looks like his dad.
Okay.
But I'm not sure. They never really explain because I don't think it's anybody controlling it. It's just a robot with a holographic face. I really can't tell.
Just to put fear in people.
Maybe. Because Krang doesn't have those kind of like horns, or not horns, but like tendrils coming out of his head up top.
Yeah, he's designed a little differently. Okay, you're right. I didn't even think about that, but that's cool.
Maybe he does have them. I don't know. Maybe it is him. I can't tell.
But it's cool to see. Like they're about to get destroyed by him, and then it's because of the missile goes off and takes out them. And that's what stops that mech and stops everything. And you also have a small scene where Raphael grabs a rocket launcher and shoots the thing in the leg to keep it from destroying the mech or destroying the flying drone. That's going to disable all their weaponry. And I really like that. I again, you see more ninja stars hit Krang's little faceplate, but they don't hurt him because they can't pierce him all the way.
They dig in pretty good, surprisingly.
Yeah, they're inside, but they didn't get to him. And this is where you have him, Michelangelo puts himself in harm's way, and you have him holding a gun to Michelangelo. And at the same time, when the bomb goes off and all their guns are deactivated, is where Krang's like, my guns still work.
So there is a part I wanted to cover. I thought it was one of the most important pieces. Maybe you're talking about Donatello and Fugitoid.
Oh, them traveling, or
nope? When he's helping, I guess, get the EMP ready, they cover that topic we spoke about earlier when it comes to the concept of spirituality.
Okay, you're right. Yes, because of the thing with the soul. Because they talk about like when you transport, your body is broken down and rebuilt, but you are the same person still.
Copy and pasting who you were into whatever you end up becoming, but yet your essence is still attached to it. And Fugitoid, out of everybody, an actual scientist, another guy that I'm sure Donatello respects up to this point, being that he's another brainiac like him, and yet he has to break it down for Donatello. I mean, I think this is where it comes in with maturity too, and life experience that Honeycutt has over Donatello. Donatello still technically being a teenager.
Yeah,
he learns a lot from him in this moment, and a lot of character development as well. I mean, look at his face by the end of that conversation.
Yeah, it does change a lot. You're right. That is a cool part. I mean, I'm assuming that plays in more as this progresses too, correct?
And yes, it does. I was just going to bring that up. It as time goes on, you get to see what Donatello goes through and why he, has to make a choice when it comes to that as time goes on.
Okay. And I know I've asked you this before, but it's been a while. This is the first time they had the reincarnation thing, correct? Was this story, or I mean the TMT, TMT? Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's growing on me.
I didn't know. I didn't know that was a thing. I just was like, I need to read Turtles and try IDW. And when I read that, I didn't hate it. Because they finally, dad, and not just some father figure, like he was actually their dad. They found a way to actually make it happen.
It's really good. It's really grown on me too, and it's having more of an effect. I'm still curious how the hell Shredder is Karai's grandfather and how she brought him back from the dead. She makes a comment of that in Sins of the Father. So that I read before this.
Bookland, my friend. I want to say it's in there. So okay,
we're reading that next. So it'll only be 6 issues, and then you have them. Bad. They save the king, queen, because Krang ends up. They make a deal with Krang. The Fugitoid will go with Krang as long as Krang leaves and spares Michelangelo, because he's going to kill him. So Dr. Honeycutt, that's what I should call him, he goes with Krang, and it doesn't show what happens to him in this. I think that's another issue that I did not read yet.
Yeah, you'll see as time goes on.
Okay. So yeah, it just ends there with them, and then you have a small scene because April is still blaming herself for what happened, and her and Casey are about to kiss when all of a sudden the turtles reappear.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Reminds me of them coming back in like the third Turtles movie.
Oh yeah, that great movie.
There's Casey in there too.
I forget he's in that movie because he skips the second movie.
Yeah,
but
everybody gets their happy ending,
and I like that. I like how it ends, and this arc ends, and then I think the next arc, which we won't be reading because we got to get some other stuff, is City at War, I think, or City War, something like that. There's 2 different ones, but we'll be getting to that at a different time. So yeah, and that wraps up
stuff. Is history.
That wraps up Krang War. I am very interested to read The Secret History of Foot Clan now. You got me very interested.
You should be.
Oh, I have been.
I mean, Shredder's always a very compelling character. So, not to mention Ninja, the Foot Clan in general. I mean, from what you've seen, some of the flashbacks should really pique your interest because that is what you get to see a lot more of, and they dig deeper, and it's all of it's interesting.
Okay, I can't wait to read more of it because I also read the next issue after this, which is after the Secret History of the Foot Clan, and it made absolutely no sense to me.
Wait, maybe not. I thought you meant the Krang villain micro.
No, I read the next numbered issue, which is some girl in a coffin, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Oh, okay. Did they say the name yet?
They did, and it meant nothing to me.
Okay. Kitsune, I'm assuming, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I stopped.
Another big role character, so it doesn't mean shit to you now, but it definitely will.
Yeah, and I was like, okay.
Man, there's so much, man. There's so much. Your mind's gonna be blown. Let's just say that. Like as time goes, when everything circles around.
I look forward to it. I really do. All right, and that brings us to our last segment, Shelf Stacker Bob. I know this is an easy one because how we feel, but I'll go first. I'm going to put this on the shelf. I really enjoyed this arc. I was excited to read this. I was really excited to see where Krang War went, and I also really enjoyed Blood Brothers about Slash. I thought both were just great reading. So it's going on the shelf. And what about you?
Yeah, same. It definitely go on the shelf. I mean, I think they did a lot of justice here. When it comes to turtles and sci-fi, me personally, I don't usually like how they mix. This, I think, was one of the better ways of them pulling that off. I think they did Krang some justice. They dug into how ruthless he is and what you can expect going forward. And then he still got away as well. So, he's still a threat. They just set up so much more for very big things to come. So, they also did Neutrinos justice. Like, this is the only time I somewhat enjoyed Neutrinos. That's a big accomplishment. So, shelf for me for sure.
Okay. Yeah, you are right. All right. And if you want to hear more Turtles, we have covered a few different Turtles episodes, as I said at the top of the show. You can hear the other two comic episodes you definitely should go listen to because, it's Turtles and it can right connects to what we're talking about. But you can also hear us talk about Hyperstone Heist, Mini 18, Turtles 3, the film, 27, the second film, Secret of the Ooze, film 16. And then the comic was comic 19 for the first one, and the 1990 movie is film 7, and then Turtles in Time's episode 44. So go listen to those if you want to hear more Turtles. And I think that's... Oh, yeah. And if you enjoyed this episode, you can also find all our content on Podbean. If you want to support the show, we do have a Patreon. For a little dollar, you can vote in our Patreon polls. Also, we have a Discord. You can join our Discord and chat with us and make suggestions of stuff that you might want to see on the show. I will try to listen. And also want to give a shout out to my awesome intro and outro, courtesy of Helena. You can follow at Hell Hasker. You can follow her on TikTok. And want to give a shout out to my buddy Bill Tucker, who did the MCU movies with me. Go check him out. And please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube. And we will see you guys all next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.